It is a pleasure for me to introduce our speaker today, Renato Grandmont, who is going to talk us about Our Lady of Guadalupe, the history of the apparition and the messages on the Tilma.
So, well, thank you everyone for being here with us this morning and to hear about Our Lady of Guadalupe. Her feast day is December 12th. And what I want to do today is talk to you a little bit about the history of the apparition, what it means, what it meant for Mexicans as well as for Spaniards, what are the secret things that are hidden in the Tilma, the messages that Our Lady, through her image, gave to Mexicans and to Spaniards, and then tell you a little bit about what science has discovered about Our Lady of Guadalupe. So I hope you will fall in love with her and her message, because her message is not only for the 1500s, but it is very alive today. And as a matter of fact, her message is not only for today, but there is a eschatological meaning to it. Eschatology is the study of the end of times. So with that, let me start sharing my screen so you can see the presentation. So I call this presentation the Ever Virgin Mary of Guadalupe, its history in the image on the Tilma. Just to begin, I want to show you a little bit the history of Marian apparitions around the world. The Virgin Mary has appeared pretty much in every country of the world. These are some of the most well-known apparitions. And throughout history, she has appeared over 2,500 times. And what is most amazing is these are some of the reported apparitions, and obviously there are many other apparitions that have never been recorded or reported, but still she's appearing. And on this, the most that she has appeared has been in the past 100 years. So as you can see, you know, it's all over the world. And today we're going to focus on the apparition in Mexico, Our Lady of Guadalupe. When Our Lady appears in history, in her interventions, normally there are three kinds of interventions. First is as a request for prayers and conversion. And this is the story of Our Lady of Guadalupe, where she appeared in Mexico in 1531 and is responsible for the conversion of the New Spain. The second kind of apparition is direct intervention, where Our Lady has directly intervened in the history of the world. One such example is the Battle of Lepanto in 1571, when the Muslims, the Ottoman Empire of the Muslims, were about to invade Europe, and they had a much larger fleet, navy fleet, than the European Christians. And Our Lady of the Rosary appeared and drove away the Muslim invasion to Europe. So that's a direct intervention. And the third one is warnings. Our Lady appeared in Portugal, in Fatima, in 1917, and there she showed hell to children aged 10, 8, and 7 years old. She gave secrets. She said that World War I would end, but warned that unless sin subsided, there will be a worse war. So three examples of how Our Lady has been appearing throughout history. Before we start, I just want to review with you the Marian dogmas. The dogmas are things that we as Catholics have to believe. And the first Marian dogma is the Immaculate Conception. And the Immaculate Conception, which feast day just passed, was the 8th of December, has always been part of the church doctrine. It was proclaimed officially in 1854, and Our Lady mentions the Immaculate Conception in her apparition in Lourdes, France, in 1858. So Our Lady was born immaculate. She was born without original sin. That's what it means. And the second one is her perpetual virginity. So from the beginning of the church says that she conceived Jesus by the Holy Spirit. And this was proclaimed in the Council of Lateran in the year 649. She mentions her perpetual virginity in the apparition in Guadalupe in Mexico in 1531. The third Marian dogma is that she is the mother of God. And in Luke, the Gospel of Luke 1:38, it says she is the mother of Jesus. And it was proclaimed by the Council of Ephesus in the year 431. She also mentions that she's the mother of God in their apparition of Guadalupe in Mexico in 1531. The fourth Marian dogma is her assumption into heaven. And in the Gospel of John, in the book of Revelation, the Apocalypse 12, he says, the woman clothed with the sun. And this was proclaimed a Marian dogma in 1915. And here, that she's assumed into heaven, in every apparition, she appears in her human body, showing that her body is in heaven. And in Guadalupe, she appeared in Mexico, clothed with the sun. Again, this is a reference to the book of the Apocalypse, the woman clothed with the sun. And I'm going to talk more about it as we go through the presentation. And the fifth Marian dogma, which has not yet been approved by the magisterium of the church, is that Our Lady is the co-redemptrix, mediatrix of all graces, and advocate with Jesus Christ on behalf of the human race. And Our Lady has requested prayers for the proclamation of this fifth Marian dogma by the church in the apparitions in Amsterdam in 1951. And since the 1900s, that have been several bishops and cardinals that have been asking for the proclamation of the fifth Marian dogma, which has yet to be proclaimed by the church. So these are the five Marian dogmas. And, as I go through the presentation, you're going to see how they come up to life. So Our Lady of Guadalupe, the image on the right, you can see of your screen, is Our Lady of Guadalupe. And in front of you, you can see San Juan Diego, whose feast day was yesterday. And this is to whom she appeared. The image of Our Lady of Guadalupe is the only image that Our Lady has left of herself in the whole world. Just like the Shroud of Turin was left by Jesus, Our Lady of Guadalupe is the image that Our Lady has left of herself. It is there is one small, very, very small image that she left in Caramato, Venezuela, but it's a very, very small image. This is a big image that she has left of herself, and I'm going to go through it. Now, Our Lady of Guadalupe, she appeared in Mexico between December 9th and December 12th in the year 1531, is the first known apparition in the Americas and what is today Mexico City. She appeared to San Juan Diego 4 times and to his uncle, Juan Bernardino, once. Juan Diego was canonized in the year 2002. And there she proclaimed that she is the mother of the true God who gives life. She asked for a church to be built so that her son and herself could intercede for all of our needs. And the apparition was approved in the year 1555 by the Archbishop of Mexico. In the year 1887, a papal bull from Pope Leo XIII declared her Queen of Mexico, patroness of the Americas. So it is a very, very important apparition, as you'll see, because it has led to millions of conversions As a matter of fact, the fastest conversion in church history. So let me talk to you a little bit about who were the people involved and how it happened. So you can see here Juan Diego. His name in Nahuatl is Cuauhtlatoa, which means eagle speaks. And this is very important, and you're going to understand why his name is important. Cuauhtlatoa means eagle speak. So he was born in 1474 in Tenochtitlan, which was part of the Aztec Empire, which is today Mexico City. And he would be about 45 years old when Hernán Cortés discovered Mexico, and 51 years old when he was baptized. He was baptized, and his baptismal name is Juan Diego. And so this was about 6 years before, 6 years after the Spaniards arrived in Mexico. And at age, it's very important that his age, Juan Diego was 57 years old when he had the vision of Our Lady. He was a peasant, an Indian, very poor, and Our Lady chose a mature layman, a widower, poor and humble Native American man to give a message to the world. And this message is not only for the world at the time, but it is also for our times. So he had 4 apparitions, and I'm going to go through them between December 9th and December 12th. And he was canonized in the year 2002 by Pope St. John Paul II, and his feast day is December 9th. The second very important person in the apparitions is Don Fray Juan de Zumárraga. He was a Franciscan, and he is the first bishop of Mexico. He was from Castilla, a region in Spain, and where he is from is very important to the story, and you're going to understand why in a little bit. And the whole story comes to us from a book called Nican Mopowa, which means the name is in Mayan, but it means in Nahuatl, and it means here is told. And this is the oldest written account in history of the apparition of Our Lady of Guadalupe, and it was written by Antonio Valeriano around the year 1560. So a lot of the things that I'm going to be telling you come from this book, Nican Mopowa. Okay, so let's go through the history of the apparitions. So as I said, this is the first known apparitions in the Americas. It was on top of a hill called the Tepeyac, which is today, modern day Mexico City. And she appeared to San Juan Diego 4 times, and once to his uncle. And as I said before, San Juan Diego was 57 years old in the year of the apparition. And it appeared 10 years after the city of Mexico was conquered by the Spaniards. There was infighting and fighting going on still between the Spaniards and the Mexicans when she appeared. The image that you see here on the right is an image of how Juan Diego saw her for the first time, and I'm going to show you a little bit more. And he said, according to the Nican Mopowa, that her clothing was shining like the sun, as if it were sending out waves of light. She appeared on the top of a hill called the Tepeyac, and San Juan Diego was walking in the morning to go visit his uncle, Juan Bernardino, and he had to cross this hill. And as he goes crossing this hill, he says that he hears a very beautiful song, and this very young lady, which he would call La Niña Bonita, the beautiful girl. And that's when he said her clothing was shining like the sun, as if it were sending out waves of light. You can imagine like the impact to San Juan Diego when he sees Our Lady. Now, in the first apparition, among the things that Our Lady says to Juan Diego, and I'm going to quote here, is, "I am the perfect ever Virgin, Holy Mary, Mother of the one great God of truth, who gives us life, the inventor and creator of people, the owner and Lord of what is around us and what is touching us or very close to us, the owner and Lord of the sky, the owner of the earth. I want very much that they build my sacred little house here, in which I will show him, I will exalt him. On making him manifest, I will give him to the people in all my personal love, in my compassionate gaze, in my help, in my salvation." End quote. It's a little bit longer, but this is the core of the message of one of the things that she said. And it is very important. I don't know if any of you have had any apparition by Our Lady, but it is said that those that can hear her or hear Jesus, when they say something, especially something important to you, you will never forget every word. And that's why, it is reported word by word what she said. So let us just decompose this a little bit and see how profound this is. She's saying, "I am the perfect ever Virgin, Holy Mary." So that's the Marian dogma, the perfect virginity of the Virgin Mary. Okay. Second, she says, "I am the mother of the one great God of truth, who gives us life." Another Marian dogma, that she is the mother of God. So, and then what she asks Juan Diego to do is to go to the bishop and ask the bishop to build a sacred little house in her honor, so that she can show him, she can show Jesus, she can show God, and she will intercede for our salvation there. So if everyone could please put their phones on mute. So it's very important here to understand this, right? So she's revealing the Marian dogmas, and she's asking for a house, for a church to be built for her there. And I'll tell you in a second why. And she chose the Juan Diego, this very poor, illiterate Indian. So Juan Diego, what he does is, this was very early in the morning, he goes to see the bishop. Now you can imagine in the 1500s, if a peasant, an Indian, wants to see the bishop was almost like nobility at the time. He goes to the bishop's palace and they do not receive him. So he spends the whole day outside asking to see the bishop, and the bishop does not receive him. Because he insisted so much, the bishop finally receives him, and then he tells him that he saw this beautiful young girl, and she asks, and then he tells him the whole story, that a church be built for her so that she can show Jesus to the world there and intercede for all of us. So what does the bishop do? The bishop does not believe in Juan Diego and sends him away. So in the second apparition, that same day, December 9th, Juan Diego goes back to the Tepeyac and tells the Virgin Mary that the bishop does not believe him. And he tells the Virgin Mary that she should choose someone important, someone rich, nobility, so that the bishop would listen to him, because he is a nobody. He is a peasant Indian. And Our Lady tells him, don't worry, I know why I chose you. And she asks him to go back to the bishop and tell him what she wants. So the next day, December 3rd, Juan Diego goes back to the bishop and again spends the whole day outside the bishop's palace until he's received, until he can speak to the bishop. And it is said, by the way, that he needed an interpreter because he spoke Nahuatl. He did not speak Spanish. And he goes there, and then when the bishop receives him, the bishop tells him, okay, if this is true, I want proof that she's really appearing to you in the Tepeyac mountain. So the third apparition is when Juan Diego goes back to the Tepeyac and tells the Virgin Mary, then the bishop wants proof that she's appearing. So she tells him to come back again the next day so that she would give him the proof that the bishop wants. But remember why Juan Diego was going to the Tepeyac? Because he needed to cross the Tepeyac to go visit his uncle, Juan Bernardino, who was very sick. And then, on the 11th, Juan Diego does not go to the Tepeyac, but on the 12th, he goes again to visit his uncle because his uncle is dying. And when he wants to go to his uncle's house, he said, I cannot go over the mountain because if I see her again, she's going to talk to me and I need to get a priest to go confess my uncle because he's dying. So he goes around, not his usual route, but goes to the other side of the mountain. And on that day, the 12th, then Our Lady appears to him again. And then she tells Juan Diego something very, very beautiful. She says to Juan Diego, she would call him Juan Dieguito, am I not here, I who am your mother? Are you not under my shadow and protection? Am I not the source of your joy? Are you not in the hollow of my mantle, in the crossing of my arms? Do you need something more? Let nothing else worry you, disturb you. And she says this, and she tells Juan Diego, don't worry about your uncle. I will take care of him. And that day, she says, I will give you the proof that the bishop wants to see. So this is December, which is winter in Mexico. And where she appears, there are all sorts of roses, beautiful, beautiful roses from Castilla. And then she tells Juan Diego, let's pick some roses. And the tilma that Juan Diego was wearing, the Indians at the time used to wear like a mantle, almost like a very long piece of cloth that they would wrap themselves around it, and they would sleep in it. They would live with that. And she tells him to open his tilma, and she and Juan Diego collect the roses that she helps put in Juan Diego's tilma and tells him, close it, don't show it to anyone, only to the bishop. This is the proof that he wants to see. And she had already appeared to Juan Diego's uncle, Juan Bernardino, and cured him. Okay, but Juan Diego did not know. And when she appeared to Juan Bernardino, because remember, Juan Diego used to call her La Niña Bonita, the beautiful girl. Juan Diego never asked the Virgin Mary her name. She says that her name she is the Virgin Mary, but she did not tell to Juan Diego that she is the Mary of Guadalupe. when she appears to Juan Bernardino, he asks her, "Who are you?" And she says, "I am the perfect Virgin, Holy Mary of Guadalupe." This is very important. Her name was revealed to Juan Bernardino, Guadalupe. And I will come back to this later, because Guadalupe is not a name in Nahuatl, the language that the natives, Indians from Mexico City area would speak. But again, once she says something to you that the heaven wants you to remember, you never forget. Okay, so Juan Diego then, with the roses in his tilma, he goes to see the bishop. And when he gets there to see the bishop, obviously, the bishop's helpers, they don't want to let him come in. They start asking and harassing him, what do you bring in your tilma? Let us see it. And he says, no, the Virgin Mary asked that this is only for the bishop to see. So finally, they let him in, and you can see here, like Juan Diego protecting, and the image on the left, protecting so that they don't see it. And when he goes in front of the bishop, then he opens his tilma, and the roses fell on the floor. And this, by the way, is the first miracle, the roses, because it is winter in Mexico, and there are no roses in winter. And the roses were roses of Castilla, this region of Spain that did not exist in Mexico, but the bishop was from Castilla. So he recognized the roses of Castilla. So this miracle was specifically for the bishop. And then the image of Our Lady appears and becomes imprinted, for lack of a better word, on the tilma of Juan Diego, in front of the bishop and all of those who were there. So this is the second miracle for the bishop, that he sees the image of Our Lady and he gets imprinted on the tilma of Juan Diego. So the first is the roses, and the second is the image itself. So let me just pause here for a second and just remind you a few things, okay? So, and then we're going to go into the tilma. For the Native Americans or the Native Mexicans, what does the tilma mean? The tilma, again, so is the name of this piece of cloth that the Indians would wear. And the Aztecs, they could read what is on the tilma, and I'm going to show you how to read it. And once you see it, you're never going to forget. So they could see and they could read the tilma in what is called a pictographic language. If you go, to a museum and you see, images that's called stelas from the old Mexicans, they could read and understand that image. And Pope St. John Paul II said that Our Lady of Guadalupe is an example of the perfect enculturation of the gospel, because what they could read there was the gospel itself, and I'm going to show you how. So the message, the image, then led to many healings of many Aztecs, and it led to the voluntary, very important word, voluntary conversion to Catholicism. It was not bloody, it was not violent, it was not oppression, it was voluntary. And some say it was the fastest conversion in church history. According to Fray Toribio Benavente, there were 5 million Mexicans that had converted to Catholicism in 4 years after the apparition. And, just think about that for a second. Priests were baptizing over close to 15,000 souls in 5 days. And for the Spaniards, there are very important messages as well. There are miracles and messages for the Spaniards, and it led to the conversion of Spaniards. Many of the conquistadors, the Spaniards that were there, They're very rough guys, and they're there, for profit, for abuse. And many of them had lost their faith, and they converted themselves. And this led them to extremely important to see that the Virgin Mary had appeared not to a Spaniard, not to the nobility, but to a peasant Indian from Mexico, which means that she's telling them that they have a soul and they are children of God. And that stopped the rapes, the ransacks, and the slaving of the Mexicans by the Spaniards. So extremely important here. And I'll come back to this in a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to now show you how to read what's in the tilma. And after I show you, you're never going to look at this image again, because you're going to understand what the details mean. Okay, and this is how Our Lady appears to the Aztecs and what they could see. So first of all, a lady appears among roses, among flowers. For the Aztecs, the flowers meant divine truth. When they wanted to make sure that the other person understand what they were saying was true, they would show them flowers. They would give them flowers. So she appears among or from the roses, from the flowers. So for them, that is extremely important. It means it's divine truth. Second, the first thing that you would see, they would see when they look at the mantle, is the color, this green or blue, is between the two colors, mantle. Okay. For the Aztecs, this means the color of the emperor is this greenish blue is the color of the quetzal, which is a bird in Mexico, and the feathers of this bird is what some of the emperors would wear in their heads, and only the emperor and his family could wear this color. So if anyone was caught wearing this blue greenish color, they will be killed, because only the emperor could wear this color. So we are in the World Cup today, so if you see the yellow shirt of the Brazilian team, that's Brazil. If they're playing Croatia and you see the white with red, that's Croatia. So the same thing. You do not need to explain this. When they look at this color, they would know she's an empress. So she is divine truth. She's an empress. The blue means heaven, and the green means life. And the mantle is between green and blue. Then they will look at her, and the first thing they will notice is her hair. Okay, take a look at her hair and how her hair is split in the middle. This, for the Aztecs, is the symbol that a girl is a virgin. The virgins, unmarried girls, they would wear their hair like that, long and split in the middle. Married women would either pull their hair back or bound their hair in two little twisted horns, horns. And you can see here this image that I show you. This is a wedding, and you can see the girl, which here is on the left. Her hair is like that, and the mother who's tying the knot, the mother's hair, which is has this little two things. So, and you can see the other girls that are there, and you can see immediately, the Aztecs would recognize immediately which ones are married and which ones are not, which ones are a virgin. So when they would look at the image, they would look at her hair and they would know she's a virgin. She's an empress. And then they will look at, if you look at just below her hands, you can see this black this black satin It is a lace that a pregnant woman would put around her waist. It was a black kind of satin lace that they would put around their belly to show that they were pregnant. As a matter of fact, so every woman that was pregnant at the time would put these and this lace around their belly to show that they're pregnant. As a matter of fact, in Spanish, there's a word that is to está encinta. Está encinta means to be pregnant, which means to have the lace around you. So the Virgin is pregnant. The Virgin, who's an empress, is pregnant. So again, you don't need to explain this. The Aztecs will look at it and understand this immediately. But wait, there's more. If you look at her dress, you're going to see there are flowers all over her dress and there are stars on her mantle. But of the flowers on her dress, there is one specific one, which is highlighted here in red, and then I blew up the image on the left. It is this circle, this flower, which is a circle with 4 petals. At the time, the Aztecs believed in many gods, but for them, there was one true god, which is the Naui Olin, which is represented by this flower with the 4 petals. And this is the true God for whom one lives, that she mentions to Juan Diego when she appears. So, and take a look at where this flower is located. It's on her womb. So when they would look at the image, they look at the hair, she's a virgin. They look at the black lace, she's pregnant. They look at what's on her womb, the Naui Oyin, the true God for whom one lives. So the Virgin is pregnant with the true God. She's an empress. Okay, this is what the Aztecs would understand. By the way, the image you see here of Our Lady of Guadalupe, it's a digital copy of the original in Mexico City. Okay. Now there's more. And then they will look at her face. And the first thing they would notice is the color of her skin. She's not white like the Spaniards, but her color is morenita. She's like a mestiza. She's very young, she's tender, she's full of compassion, mercy, and love. And the color of her skin, again, is in between their color and the color of the Spaniards. Which, again, she says, and this is from the Nican Mopoya, because I am truly your compassionate mother, yours and of all the people who live together in this land, and of all the other people of different ancestries. This is all over the world. My lovers, those who cry to me, those who seek me, those who trust in me. So she's the mother of all, and the color of her skin is the color of all. Her head is, she's bowing, she's tilting the head a little bit. So even though she's an empress, she's tilting her head because what is in her womb, the true God, is more important than her. Now take a look at the cross that she has here, and I highlighted in red, and then on the left, you can see the cross. It's right on her neck. Okay, for the Aztecs, and if you go to a museum, you're going to see this in the images, they would place right here on the neck what two things. First of all, is what they will call a stone, that what they will call the heart of the divinity in the idols that are in the museums. And normally it was a shining stone on the neck where others could see their reflection, is the heart of the divinity. And it also, like, sometimes they would put things here in the images so that people understand what that person was saying. So she has the cross right here. So she's telling them about the cross. So basically, the Empress, the Virgin who's pregnant with the true God, came among the flowers, which means truth from God, to tell them about the cross, about Jesus on the cross. And that is why there was so many people converting to Catholicism, because she's telling them to follow the cross. Now, there's more, okay? When you look at her mantle, and again, here I'm putting up a detail on her dress, there is this strange flower. Her dress, by the way, is a sand-like color. If you go back, you see it's a sand-like color, and it means the earth. And there are flowers on her dress. Again, there are flowers on earth. In her mantle, there are stars from heaven. The flowers that are here, okay, there are different flowers. I show you the true God, but then there is this this flower, and again, flowers mean divine truth. This flower that, if you look at it, it looks like a heart. You see it? Do you see the flower? It looks like a heart. And obviously the heart with an artery that feeds the blood into the heart. And obviously the blood that's flowing in the artery. So that means life for the Aztecs. They could see the heart, the artery, it means life. Now, you could see almost like a face here in this heart. So this face in the heart for them meant divine knowledge. So this heart with flowers would mean true life that comes from heaven, because look at where the artery is coming from. There are several of these flowers on her dress, and all of them with this heart-shaped flower, the artery comes from the mantle, comes from heaven. So the heart, which is life, that comes from heaven, true life that comes from heaven. The root is in the mantle. The heart could also be seen by the Aztec, because everything had several meanings, sometimes as a mountain with flour and water. And this for them means civilization, a civilization linked to heaven, because the water flows to heaven. So the heart flower mountain, this flower that is on her dress, means this flower of truth of God is a new civilization that has its roots in heaven, and it's full of truth, of divine wisdom. Again, that's not what I understand, but this is what the Aztecs would see, and they would understand this. And this is what Our Lady is telling them, and today we know. Her hands, if you look at her hands, she's praying, okay? Now, this is the symbol of prayer for Europeans, but it was not the symbol of prayer for many of the Indians. And I'll tell you a little bit more in a second. But this is confirmed, for the natives because of her foot. In the image, let me go back, and in the image, you see here her foot at the bottom, and her foot is the only part of the tilma of her body that is coming out of the tilma below. There's only one foot, which means with her hands like this, her head down, and her foot, she's almost like she's dancing. And for the Indians, to pray was to dance. Okay, so she's praying. Her head is low. And what's in her hand? Take a look at what's in her hand. Wow, it's the same flower. So again, a very important symbol here, because her heart flower in her hands means that she's offering her heart to the true God in prayer without pulling it out. Remember, at the time, the Aztecs would pull out the beating heart of people in sacrifice, and the Aztec priests would eat the beating heart in sacrifice, and the bodies were thrown down the pyramids and they would eat the bodies. Okay, so she's telling them, offer your heart to the true God in prayer without pulling it out. It is an invitation from her, and she's telling you what to do. So very clear for the Aztecs that she does not want sacrifices, human sacrifices anymore. She wants you to give your heart in prayer to the true God. Again, the Aztecs will see this. Now, if we look at the image again, what do you see around her? Okay, she comes in the mist and clouds, which for them would mean that the one who comes from the place of all strangers, she opens a chest of spiritual riches, and she is the eyes, ears, and mouth of the invisible and spiritual one, who manifests himself visible through her. She comes in the flowers, but she comes by the colors that you see around in the mists and clouds. And this is what it means for the Aztecs. So her mantle, this blue-green mantle, has 46 stars. The colors of the emperor, she is an empress. Blue means heaven, green means life. So, and she's dressed with the stars of heaven, and her dress itself, as I just showed you before, is sand-like color with the flowers, which mean the earth. So the flowers represent truth, the mountains and water represent civilization, the heart and the main artery comes from heaven. So if you see again, like the flower here, the artery comes from heaven, so all life comes from heaven. And at the bottom, if you see the bottom of the image, it is folded at the bottom, as were the tribute codices of native Mexicans. So the most important codices that you see in museums, they were folded. So mean it's extremely important. It's a tribute code. Now, what else would they see here? She's in front of the sun. You see the sun behind her? She's in front of the sun. This is extremely important because the Aztecs believed in the sun god, Huitzilopochtli is the name in Nahuatl, is the sun god for the Aztecs, was the most important god for the Aztecs, and is the god sun, the god of warfare, military conquest, and sacrifice. Okay, so she's in front of the sun, which means she's more important than their sun god. She's stepping on the moon. Do you see the black crescent moon under her feet? She's standing on the moon. Okay, this is extremely important for many reasons. First of all, she's more important than the moon god, which was for the Aztecs Coyolxauhqui, the goddess of the moon. And the importance of the sun god and the moon god, if you go to Mexico City, in Teotihuacan, the biggest pyramids are the pyramids of the sun, the biggest one, and then the pyramid of the moon. Okay, so they are the tallest structures of the Aztec Empire. And so she's more important than the sun god, and she's more important than the moon god. She's in front of the sun, she's stepping on the moon. Mexico, the name Mexico means belly button of the moon for the Mexicas, the people, the original people of Mexico. And where is she standing? In the center of the moon. Okay, so she's showing what is the center of the universe. It's not the Mexicas, it is God, the true God in her womb, and she comes to show him to us. Now, let me just digress a little bit and tell you a little bit more about the gods that the Aztecs believe. So both the sun god and the moon god, they were born of a goddess called Coatlicue. Coatlicue in Mayan, in Nahuatl, sorry, means the one with the skirt serpents. And it's represented by a woman with the head of two snakes. And let me show you a picture. This is Coatlicue, the mother of the sun god and the moon god. So it is this two snake head with, she had a skirt of serpents, and she has hanging on herself skulls, hearts, and limbs that she would eat of people. And the Aztecs would sacrifice to Coatlicue on the Tepeyac mountain where Our Lady appears. So basically, Our Lady appears and crushes the head of the serpent. On the Tepeyac, she appears on top of the Tepeyac and asks for a church to be built there, basically ending human sacrifices that were done to Coatlicue and to the sun god, her son, and to the moon god, especially to the sun god. So again, extremely important for the Aztecs, this symbology that she appears on top of the hill where Coatlicue was the Aztecs would go to honor Coatlicue. She stops human sacrifices because she's pregnant. She tells them that every life comes from heaven and that you should not rip out the living hearts of people, but you should offer your heart in prayer to the true God. You see all the symbolism. Now, there's one more thing. At the bottom of the image, there is an angel. This angel, by the way, was not painted. The image is not painted at all. And if you look at the angel, let me show you a few things, okay? It is a man with eagle wings. You see the wings on the angel? And again, remember the name of Juan Diego, Cuatlatzoatzin, which means the eagle that speaks divine things. So the man with the eagle wings is the eagle that speaks divine things. So the Aztecs would believe that the birds would communicate with the gods, and the eagle was the most important of the birds and would therefore bring divine messages to them. If you take a look at the face of the Indian, he's an old man. He's not young, he's not a baby, he's an old man. Look at his hair. He's got very receding hairline, okay? He's going bald. Why? He's old. He's a symbol of wisdom, of authority, of cultural truth, respect for the elders because they know the truth. They have authority because they have wisdom. The angel is an old man, a balding man with eagle wings. He's not carrying her, but he's presenting her. Look at how he is presenting her, okay? And if you look at how he's presenting her and he's presenting what is in her, which is Jesus, the true God, in her immaculate womb, in her virgin womb. Look at his hands. What is he holding? On one hand, he's holding the mantle, the heaven with the stars. And on the other hand, he's holding the dress, the earth. So showing that she is uniting through the true God, heaven and earth. You see, He's holding heaven with one hand and earth with the other. The dress in earth in sand-like colors, and the mantle in heaven-like colors with the stars. Take a look at the colors of the wings, okay, and the color of the moon. The moon is black. Black for them meant north. Blue means south on the tip of the wing. White, west, and red, east. So north, south, west, and east. So basically, they look at this angel presenting her, and what does it mean when you put everything together? The ego that speaks divine things with wisdom and authority from the four directions of the universe presents the one who unites heaven and earth, the true God for whom one lives, in the womb of the Virgin Mary, Empress of Heaven. Wow, isn't this amazing? This is how the Aztecs would read this. And let me repeat that, okay? So they'll look at it, and it means the ego that speaks divine things with wisdom and authority from the four directions of the universe present the one who unites heaven and earth, the true God for whom one lives, in the womb of the Virgin Mary, Empress of Heaven. It is amazing. So that is why, okay, Saint John Paul II said, Our Lady of Guadalupe is the synthesis of the gospel. She asks for a house to be built for her so that she can bring true God to all who seek him. He wants to live with you. She wants to intercede for you and present him to you. She's telling us, offer him your heart as I offer mine. No more human sacrifices, but in prayer. She crushes the serpent, you know, and it, go back to the book of Genesis. The serpent is the demons. She crushes the serpent as her house will be on top of the hill where the serpent, Coatlicue, was honored. No more need of human sacrifices to the gods, like Huitzilopochtli, the sun god. And finally, okay, going back to the book of Revelation by John, a great sign appeared in the sky, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. She was with child and wailed aloud in pain as she labored to give birth. The woman clothed with the sun. Okay. Now, that's what the Aztecs would see and understand. What is the message of Our Lady of Guadalupe for the Spaniards? So she comes at a very difficult time for the Spaniards. The conquest was not going well. There was a lot of fighting going on, and many of the Spaniards had lost faith. So by coming, she, before she coming, they were exploiting the Indians, the Native Americans, the Aztecs, stealing their gold, raping their women, run-casting everything. So the first miracle for the Spaniards were the roses of Castilla that the bishop San Juan, Juan de Zumárraga from Castilla understood and saw. There are no roses from Castilla in Mexico blooming in winter. That's the first miracle. The second is the apparition of Our Lady herself and the image that is left on Juan Diego's tilma that the bishop saw. So this was in front of the bishop. Third is the name Guadalupe. I told you that the name Guadalupe was not given to San Juan Diego, but to his uncle, Juan Bernardino. Okay, Guadalupe is not a name in Nahuatl. And the Aztecs did not. Guadalupe, by the way, is the name of a convent in Extremadura, Spain, that you can see here, where there is a small image of Our Lady that some say dates back to St. Luke at the time of Jesus. And the image, there are books talking about this image from the 1300s. And Cristobal Colon, Hernan Cortés, Saint Therese of Jesus, all used to do pilgrimages to Our Lady of Guadalupe, this monastery in Extremadura. So there was no way Juan Bernardino, an old Indian who did not speak Spanish, know about Guadalupe. And Our Lady tells him, I am the Virgin Mary of Guadalupe. Okay, so that's another miracle for the Spaniards. Now, what does Maria de Guadalupe mean? Maria in Jewish means the one chosen by God, or the one who illuminates, or the one who brings light. Guadalupe is not a word in Spanish, it's a word in Arabic. That means Wadi Alub, or the river of black pebbles, or the bed of the river that reflects. So Maria de Guadalupe means the holy riverbed that illuminates, or saying it another way, the one who illuminates by bringing her son, who is the living water and the light of the world, into the world. So she is bringing the light of the world into the world. She's reflecting the light, but she's not the light. Think about that for a second. That's what Maria de Guadalupe means, okay? Extremely important. She is this riverbed that brings the water. The water of life is Jesus, that reflects the water. He is the light of the world, not her. He is the light of the world. But she, because the riverbed is black, it reflects. And the fifth miracle for the Spaniards is the voluntary conversion of millions of Mexicans. People walk miles to be baptized. And as I said, over close to 15,000 Aztecs would ask for voluntary baptism to the priests a week. So that's I don't think you see that anywhere in the world. And she stopped human sacrifices at the time because she tells, don't rip up the heart, offer your heart in prayer. Now, let me tell you a little bit more about the Tilma itself. The Tilma is 1 meter 43 centimeters long. Okay, sorry, the height of Our Lady in the Tilma is 1 meter 43 centimeters. So she's not very tall. The Tilma is almost 500 years old. It is made out of a fabric from the cactus tree that does not last more than 20 years. This one has 500 years. If you look at the image, on the right of the image, you see this stain. This was acid that was spilled by mistake when some of the nuns were cleaning the gold and silver frame, but the acid did not destroy the Tilma. Okay, this happened in 1784. The Tilma has been exposed for centuries to touching, to humidity, to candles burning under it. If you burn a candle next to a white wall, you're going to see it's going to become black. And nothing has destroyed the Tilma for 500 years. In 1921, okay, a bomb, a Freemason came in and put a bomb to destroy the image of Our Lady of Guadalupe. At the time, the image had just a very thin just a thin protection of glass in front of her, and people could come very close, and this guy comes in with a backpack full of explosives and puts the backpack there. And when the backpack exploded, there was a crucifix that you can see here on the left, and if you visit Our Lady of Guadalupe, you're going to see it. The crucifix bended to protect the image All glasses of the basilica and buildings around it broke, but not the glass in front of Our Lady of Guadalupe, and nothing happened to the Tilma. There are 3 letters that one can see on the Tilma, and I'm going to show you. The first one is the letter L with the white here, then the letter U, and finally the letter Z with part of the mantle. Okay, so, and which in Spanish means luz. Luz means light. So if the messages on the Tilma were not enough, it's written luz here, so light. And finally, I don't know if you can see it, but it's something that I could see, and I bring it up to you. There is a shadow here on the mantle, which I put here, and this shadow to me is the image of the crucified Jesus, not the crucifix. This, by the way, was the crucifix of St. John Paul II. And you can see how the arms, Jesus's arms, are like that. And I can see in this shadow the image of Jesus. Now, what are some of the scientific discoveries about the Tilma? First of all, the image is not painted. There are scientists who have studied this, and what they found is that there are no paintbrush strokes. Everything was done at once. Hold on, I just need to. Everything was done at once. There is what is called iridescence on the image. What does that mean? The scientists have found that if you look at the image from different angles, the light changes. Like if you take a feather from a bird, and you move it, you're going to see how the color changes a little bit. This is what iridescence means. There is iridescence in the image. It is unexplainable, because you cannot have done this image without any paintbrush stroke and create iridescence. Even today, with modern technology, painters cannot do this. The colors of the Tilma, a Nobel Prize winner in chemistry, Hermann Kuhn, in 1936, studied the pigmentation of the image, and he found that there is no natural animal or mineral coloring on the image, and he cannot explain the origin of the pigmentation on the image. So it's not natural. The Tilma does not decompose. As I told you, it's made out of fiber cactus, which is a very simple thing. A similar Tilma was built, have been built many times to see how long it lasts, and they do not last more than 20 years, especially when it's hanging. The fibers start to decompose. There are little animals that start breeding in it and eating it, and the thing rips apart. This one has 500 years, has been hanging for 500 years. The eyes of Our Lady, I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. The importance of the 46 stars, and finally, what they have found in terms of music on the Tilma. The eyes of Our Lady, a picture was taken in 1929, and the guy who took the picture found, by blowing up the image, that he could see something on the eyes of Our Lady. And then over the years, scientists have been studying the eyes of Our Lady of Guadalupe. And what they have found is 13 figures. They magnified the eye 2,500 times, and they could see in the iris of the eyes of Our Lady, which is very small, 7 to 8 millimeters now only, reflections of people. So, for instance, if you have a friend, or if you look at your friend's eyes and you're close, you're going to see your reflection in that person's eyes. This is what they have found on the eyes of Our Lady. 13 figures, and I will show you. So you can see here what they've studied. They amplify it by 2,500 times. And Jose Tonsman, a guy who used to work for IBM and did this study, and they found on the left eye, and you can see, these images, and I'm going to clarify them for you, but you can see the reflections of different people. And by the way, if you see here, the reflection in the center that I'm highlighting to you, it is this old, bald man, which is believed to be Bishop Zumarraga. The picture on the right bottom hand side corner is an image, a painting of Bishop Zumarraga. And you can see how it resembles the bald man in the eye, reflected in the eye of Our Lady. Another thing, the reflections they are in both eyes, but it's not symmetric, showing perspective and how people could see different. So there are many studies that have been made, and you can see what is reflected on her eyes here at the bottom. This is this is what you could see. There are 13 people, and the most amazing thing is that what is in the center of both of her eyes is there was a family there, father, mother, and children. So despite the fact that you could see the reflection of the bishop, probably his translator, other people that were there, there was also a family there at the moment of the apparition and the Our Lady's being on the tilma. And the gaze of our mother is on the family. That's another amazing thing, that for her, the most important thing is the family. Remember what Our Lady said in Fatima in 1917, that the last battle of the devil was going to be the destruction of the family, and her gaze is on the family. The stars on the mantle. So, 1981, there was a study made of the stars of the mantle using in modern computers. And what they have found is that the 46 stars on the mantle represent, not from looking down up, but from looking up down, okay? They represent, they are placed specifically where the major constellations would have been in the sky of Mexico City on December 12, 1531 at 10:26 a.m. This is amazing. So this was done with modern computers. Now, there's more to it. They could find that the placement of the stars and of the constellations would put the corona borealis, the crown, on her head. You see here in green, I highlighted. And you would put the constellation of Virgo over her heart. She's a virgin. And we'll put the constellation of Leo on her womb. The Lion of Judah is Jesus. Okay, so amazing that this is what they have discovered. And by the way, December 12, 1531 is the day of the winter solstice. What does that mean? Is the shortest day of the year. After that, the days become longer. So everything is amazing. Now, the music in the mantle, there is a Mexican professor, Fernando Ojeda. This is a mathematician, and he discovered Fibonacci sequence, Kepler's triangle, and Pythagoras' golden ratio on the image. And that he said, if there are geometric, astronomical, and arithmetic messages on the image, there must also be music. So what he did is he spaced out the image, drawing a line from the vertical seam and converting the flowers and the stars into musical notes. He discovered this song, and I will play for you a little bit. So this music has perfect harmony, and it's found on the mantle. Our Lady of Guadalupe, okay, so just to conclude, the image of Mexico, she has received many titles. She's the patron saint of Mexico. She is the patron saint of New Spain. She is the patron saint of Latin America. She was crowned Queen of Mexico and Empress of the Americas by Pope St. John Paul II. And I can tell you also that Our Lady of Guadalupe is invoked many times in prayers of deliverance for those who are afflicted by demons. And when we pray liberation prayers and we invoke Our Lady of Guadalupe, the reaction by the demons is immediate because she comes to crush the head of the serpent. The Basilica of Our Lady of Guadalupe, which you can see here, you can see the Tepeyac mountain and the Basilica of Our Lady of Guadalupe that was built. It is the most visited Catholic pilgrimage site in the world, more than the Vatican. There are about 10 million people estimated that will visit the Basilica of Our Lady of Guadalupe in Mexico just this year. You can see the image of Our Lady that hangs there. And as I said before, Our Lady of Guadalupe's message is a message for today, a message from God to all of us. Respect human life and convert to Catholicism. Our Lady is the synthesis of the gospel. She asked for a house to be built so that she can bring the true God to all who seek Him. He wants to live with you. Offer Him your heart as she offers her. In prayer, no more human sacrifices, no more abortion. She crushes the head of the serpent, and there is an eschatological message. A great sign appeared in the sky, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon and under her feet, on her head a crown of 12 stars. She was with child and wailed aloud in pain as she labored to give birth. Revelation 12. So, my friends, Our Lady of Guadalupe is a message for us. It is a living message, and I hope that now that you know the story, you know how to read the Tilma. She will speak to you in your hearts as she's spoken to so many people over time, bringing the message to stop human sacrifice, abortion, euthanasia, offer our heart in prayer to the true God. She is the one who unites heaven and earth. He has come for our salvation. He is our true God. So that's what I had for the presentation. Let me stop the music and let me see if there are any questions or comments. And if we have time, I'll talk to you a little bit about the mantle of Our Lady of Guadalupe. So Monica, let me revert back to you and see if there are questions, comments, or if you want me to tell you about the mantle.